So, Taylor, thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation with us. I'm very, very excited to talk about toxic beauty with you and why it's something that should be important to all of our listeners. I wanted to start on a personal note and to have you talk about if either you or someone that you love has experienced any of the like health or hair challenges that we've talked about or will continue to talk about in terms of dangers from beauty products, right? So is this something that you know of someone who's had a personal experience with this, or is this something that you've had a personal experience and has kind of made you even more attentive to this issue after that?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me and trusting my opinions and stories about this. I think it's a really important issue. And also nice to meet you. I definitely have experienced this. I remember being in middle school using this specific, like, very scented, flavorful lip balm all of the time. And over time, like, I would use it every single day, all the time. You know, in middle school, you have like your signature lip balm that you have. And I really started to notice that my lips and my skin around my lips would get extremely dry and flaky all of a sudden. This would persist for about 2 more years. I had stopped using lip balm and I ended up having to go to the doctor who prescribed me with perioral dermatitis, which is a type of eczema. And sometimes it can occur from using a specific kind of product. And there's actually another skin condition. It escapes my mind, but it happens after using treatments for eczema. The skin has bad reactions to it that can last for years. And for me, I still struggle with eczema on my face. Every winter, I end up getting breakouts that last for weeks. And they're very uncomfortable. They're very itchy. They're very flaky, and it's hard to keep moisture. And I have my, predictions that it started with that very fragrance induced lip balm, because as I've learned about my skin over time, my skin can't handle certain fragrances, certain like strong ingredients. And so I've definitely experienced that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that and what a hard lesson to learn, but thank you for sharing your lesson so that more of us can learn from that. Because I think a lot of times people don't connect maybe the problems that they're having with the beauty products that they are using. And you talked about your skin being sensitive and particularly to fragrance, right? And so we want to unpack like how do you suggest that people really dig into ingredients and when we do have these fragrance catch-alls and when looking at the ingredients looks like alphabet soup, right? So how do you go about selecting, your lip balm or your lotion or your hair conditioner in ways that aren't going to create all of these public health concerns that you've been talking about?
For me, in my experience, it can be really hard looking at products and seeing, that really long list of ingredients that you have no clue how to pronounce or even look up. So it's easier for me to have in mind what ingredients to look for instead of what ingredients to avoid at first. And for me, I always look for things like hyaluronic acid, especially. And I start from there when looking at products for hair and for skin. And if I always take it upon myself to notice that if an ingredients list is really, really long and there's nothing on the bottle that would explain why there's so many ingredients in it, I most likely will put it down, especially if I can't tell what the ingredients are. I'll just avoid it entirely. For me, the smaller the ingredients list is, the better it is for me to use. And that's mostly what I do. It's nothing crazy, but I try to go in with a list of ingredients that work for me and then be wary of if I think there's not a lot disclosed on the product itself.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for sharing that because, yeah, once you know what you are looking for, I think it makes it easier to make it through that long list. And also to know that the long list itself should be kind of a trigger for you of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be putting something with such a long list on my skin and in my hair. So I appreciate that. I want to pivot a little bit to talk about Black hair politics and beauty standards, right? So one of the things that we've been talking about and learning about is how Black women in particular have special vulnerabilities to these toxic beauty products. And some of it comes from politics around race and gender and beauty. So I'd love to hear you talk about how you see these narratives shaping Black women's vulnerability to these toxic beauty products and what you see as the narratives that we have to rewrite so that looking professional or looking good or looking attractive doesn't make us exposed to really dangerous products.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a clear history of respectability politics whenever it comes to Black women's hair. I mean, historically, we've had to assimilate by straightening our hair, hiding our curls. You can see that in history with the Tignon laws in Louisiana, where we literally were not allowed to wear our hair out. And so there's this immense pressure on Black women to always look the part, always look put together. And for many Black women, that does mean straightening our hair. And, you've heard stories of women getting perms and then the chemicals in those perm treatments causing alopecia, causing hair loss and breakage that's really hard to come back from. And for me, in my experience, I grew up thinking that to be put together and to have healthy hair, quote unquote, meant having long hair. So I grew up having to unlearn the idea that if you had short hair, it wasn't healthy. And that's something that's still ingrained in the Black community today, that like if you have short hair, oh, that means it's not good hair, it's not healthy hair. And I really had an experience where at first I went natural because my mom would straighten my hair up until middle school. Then I decided to go natural. But what I did was that I never got routine trims. I never really cut my hair to get rid of split ends because I was afraid of it going too short. I was always afraid of it being at a length that I would deem quote unquote unhealthy. And what I would find is that my hair grew to be really uneven, have a lot of split ends, and it really wasn't healthy, even when I went natural and went the way of what a lot of people would see as stepping away from respectability politics. It was still unhealthy because I still had that idea ingrained in me of, oh, I need to have long hair. I need to show that like I love my hair enough that I'm not going to cut it, you know? But it really wasn't until I took that step and did a real trim, even with my uneven hair, to find out that what it really takes is treating your hair and your beauty in the most healthy way for what it needs, not for necessarily what it looks like, for it to really, really thrive. So I think that the narrative truly does need to change to prioritize health and understand that when you prioritize health, the presentation will come along with it later. I think we need to take presentation and switch it with health first, because, one can influence the other, but the other doesn't always influence the latter.
Yes, it actually, as you example just showed, that our preference for looking a particular way can actually lead us to having unhealthy or less healthy hair and bodies. So yeah, I like that flipping of the narrative and prioritize health at all decision-making points, including what we put on our hair and on our bodies. Now, I know that you have spent a great deal of time building trust by connecting history and policy and pop culture. And so I'm curious to hear more about what are some of the cultural stories, they can be old stories or new stories, that you have found are really helpful in allowing people to see this is a public health issue. It isn't just about individual choice.
That's a really great question. It's a really interesting one. And the first story that really comes to mind for me is Madam C.J. Walker, who, first Black woman millionaire in the US. And she really started creating hair products because she had a scalp condition. She had a lot of hair loss, and there weren't products on the market that catered to that and actually helped her maintain her health and at the same time live up to the beauty standards that Black women had at that time. And so she took it upon herself to create a product that not only helped you, to be completely honest, assimilate into culture, but also took into account your scalp health, how it affected your body. And that's where her success really came from, because she presented a product to consumers that took their health into mind. And so I think that's something that honestly, I think a lot of brands can take example from, that when you put your customer's health first, it will certainly pay off because you're thinking about their long-term happiness instead of just short-term happiness.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of just trying to make a quick buck, that we can make money and promote entrepreneurship by actually meeting people's health needs and beauty needs. Those don't have to be contradictory.
Right.
And so as we think about what we can do now to do a safe swap, right? Like all of us want to look good, however we define looking good and smelling good. But in particular with our hair for Black women, what are three like practical budget conscious swaps that you would recommend that Black women do to allow themselves to put health first? Without sacrificing like hair texture and moisture and hold and style, but still be healthy.
Well, for me, the things that I've done, like I said before, my mom used to straighten my hair. And sometimes I still like the style of straightening hair. And a lot of Black women love that style, and there's nothing wrong with that. I've personally switched to just blow drying my hair and doing, I think TikTok calls it the fluffy silk press. And it's helped me to use less heat, not have to use the same amount of products. I can use so much less products and also allow my hair to embrace the volume that it has while still getting that kind of like straightened look if I choose to do that. That's something that I've switched from doing. Something my sister actually does is that every time she does her box braids or every time she does a style that incorporates braided hair, she'll soak the braided hair in apple cider vinegar beforehand to strip it from its chemicals, because we know that packaged hair can come with a lot of toxins and a lot of chemicals, and it can cause reactions on the scalp. I've experienced it. My sister's experienced it. So she'll treat the hair before she uses it. And apple cider vinegar is cheap. It's inexpensive. Anybody can get that. And I feel like not many people talk about how important shower water is on your hair. There can be a lot of metals in shower water, chlorine. And so if you're able to, switching out a shower head that has a filter in it can immensely help the health of your scalp, skin, and your hair. Ever since I've switched mine, my hair is so much easier to detangle. And I've noticed that my skin is a lot less dry, which makes me think about what kind of water have I been dunking myself under? And it's crazy the immense change that's happened just from thinking about the water they use.
Yeah, no, that makes such good sense. And now I'm thinking about it, like I drink filtered water, but not on my hair, right? And so it's like, oh yeah, that is perfect. That makes a lot of sense. So thank you for sharing, those strategies, very simple swaps that we could do that really would allow us to put health first and still look good. And so we have our fluffy silk press,
Yes.
our apple cider vinegar for the braids. I love that. And then swapping out our shower head to do filtered water. So thank you very much for sharing that. So those are things that we can share with our audience that they can do as individual women who are trying to care for their hair. What are some of the things that you would encourage us to do to put more pressure on the retailers who are actually selling these products? How do we encourage them to prioritize our health, our safety, in addition to making money from, selling products?
Well, the first thing I'll say is probably the most obvious one, but stop buying from that brand. But you can also use social media, use your own story and share your own story online as to um, how your life changed from using certain brands that don't disclose the ingredients that they use or don't disclose the certain chemicals and harmful toxins in their products. Because you can take your dollar away, but social media is a really, really amazing tool that puts a face to the problem and helps people hear from real people about stories of how this brand has affected them. So I'd say use your voice, and don't undervalue how important it is to share your voice about how it's affected you.
That is really good advice. Thank you for sharing. And I do hope that people will take advantage of that opportunity to share their voice about how these brands are impacting them, and that can encourage more people to stop using things that are unhealthy and use things that are. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts around how lawmakers might be able to support this work, or if you had a magic wand, which I'm about to give you right now, and you could wave it in the air over the next 12 months, what would you like to see our lawmakers do or our brands do that would actually allow us to be able to hold companies accountable for producing unhealthy beauty products?
Well, I have actually have an example that I think is a really, really great one that I've seen. I've seen how Dove has partnered with the Crown Act on how to end hair discrimination in the United States. And I think that's a really important collaboration of what we've seen between people trying to get this act passed as a law and a brand that actually cares about it as well, because it gives you so much more visibility and it shows the importance and uplifts people's stories. So if I could wave a magic wand right now, I would love lawmakers and people who are in grassroots organizations and brands to connect with those organizations and really uplift efforts that are trying to make sure that brands disclose the things that we need to know for what we're putting on our bodies. More collaborations like that, I think, would change so much, so much.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. We are a big fan of the Crown Act and ending hair discrimination in all forms in all public spaces and allowing, as my shirt says, Black hair belongs everywhere.
Yes.
Allowing Black people to be able to wear their hair in multiple styles that reflect our culture and beauty. And as you have laid out for us, how to do that in a way that prioritizes our health. And so I'm so grateful for you taking out time to speak with us today about this. Before I let you go, I want to ask you one more question, which is that at LDF, we've spent 85 years dreaming, defending, and disrupting in the name of civil rights. And we have no intention on stopping until we actually achieve the multiracial democracy that we deserve and that our ancestors have been fighting for. So I'm curious for you to name one of it could be your dream, your defense strategy, or your disruption strategy that you're using in this particular moment that we're in.
The content that I create online is about Black history. And I try to teach it in a way where people can relate with history and see themselves in it. That's a big core theme of my book as well. And I feel like that dream has driven my mission so much so that people understand that no matter where you are and no matter who you are, you have the ability to make history. That is what I hope for everyone to understand, because once you have confidence that you can change something, you're more likely to act and you're more likely to believe that even if your action is small, as a collective, we can make huge change. So that's my dream, that everyone understands that no matter how small a part you play, you can make history too.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that work. Thank you for sharing that dream with us. We were just having a conversation at work where we were talking about why it's important that people understand that history is made by individuals working together in small ways. And so many times we think about it as just what one person did at
Yeah.
one point in time, and it was really big. And I really am so grateful to you for teaching history in a way that allows us to see ourselves both in the past and, as you said, empowering us to take action in this moment. So thank you for giving us that gift. And thank you for giving us the gift of your time in this particular conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This work is so important, and this is an incredible conversation. And I'm very happy that I could be a part of it.